burning as they're doing that to actually be paying attention? Looks really easy to us. But try to be that guy. Takes a lot of brain energy to be mapping, following, charting. And so in the same way, when we're trying to juggle a lot in our lives, even if we don't have a felt sense, emotional awareness of stress, the body is under stress by trying to juggle so much. They also have recently found, and this has become one of my most favorite to quote pieces of data, that in this constant multitasking era, what we're doing is actually constantly interrupting ourselves, because we can't be doing, as I said, 10 things simultaneously. So we're going in kind of rapid succession. A sentence of an email here, 2 words of an SMS there, reading this here, talking on the phone here, doing this. And we kind of keep going back and forth between them. They've discovered that the average worker in an average workplace only gets a total of 3 minutes. 3 minutes uninterrupted on any one task before they shift. Either they shift because they remember, oh my God, I've got to finish that email, or something blinks or buzzes, some notification or rings or something. 3 minutes at a time, uninterrupted on average. Now, here's the best part of that piece of data. In 1 hour of being interrupted every 3 minutes, in 1 hour, on average, your IQ points drop by 10. Okay? So you are 10 IQ points stupider at the end of the hour than you were at the beginning of the hour. No, sorry. It's 5 IQ points. Sorry, it drops by 5 IQ points. If instead, I was right the first time, 10 IQ points. If you get interrupted every 3 minutes, your IQ drops 10 IQ points in 1 hour. If instead of that, you simply sat at your desk and you did no work at all, but all you did was smoke marijuana, you took drugs, you sat at your desk and took drugs, no work, just drugs, your IQ would drop by 5 points in an hour. Meaning, we are making ourselves twice as stupid by our way of working than if we didn't work at all and we simply sat at our desk and took drugs. That's how damaging this constant interruption of our brain and focus is. It makes us stupider than if we just sat there and took drugs. So I love data like this. I love this kind of research because it makes us realize how that which we think is making us more efficient is actually making us significantly less efficient. Not to mention stressed out and all of that, but we actually are less efficient. We make a lot more mistakes. Our IQ is dropping during that hour. So that's all to say, you're much better off doing one thing at a time. Doesn't mean you have to give it 5 hours, but it means have a set amount of time so that the brain knows, I'm going to spend the next 1 hour on this. Not it gets totally into it and then you're called away to some beep or ring or bling or flash or whatnot. Because what they also found in that same research body was that it takes us a long time to actually get back to where we were before we were interrupted for another task. So we actually end up losing a lot of time. It takes our brain a while to recalibrate and get back to where we were. So one thing at a time, You'll be much more efficient, much more creative. And it's hard only because we've gotten out of the habit. But once you decide that you're going to do it, it's not actually that hard. It's just about silencing notifications on your phone. It's about just a clear decision. Until I finish this thing, I'm not going to check my email. And I'm going to turn off my notifications in the meantime. Until I finish this thing, I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I'm not saying turn it off entirely. There always may be a family emergency or something, but you have it in such a way that some emergency call will get through, but nothing else is going to get through. And what it also does is it allows you to be fully immersed in what you're doing. And what we know about joy and that exuberance in life is that it comes when we experience something we call flow states, right? And different people experience flow states in different ways. But it's that state in which you are totally immersed in what you are doing in such a way that, you forget it's lunchtime. 3 hours have gone, you think it's only been half an hour. In such a flow. And that's actually where our joy in work comes, is when we're so connected into that flow. But you can't get that if you're constantly swapping tasks. You have to allow yourself to really anchor and hook into what you're doing, letting everything else kind of dissipate. And only then do you even have a chance to hit that flow state. Of course, beautiful. Other questions? Yes.
Namaste. We are constantly thinking about either present, future, or past, but it is always said to practice idleness, to not think of anything. How do we do that?
So, it's not about shutting off the mind. Unfortunately, we cannot stop ourselves from thinking with the mind. I mean, even just with that famous example that I love, if you just say, okay, everybody close your eyes, and whatever you do, don't think about a pink elephant. You can think about anything else, but just don't think about pink elephants. No pink elephants. No pink elephants, okay? So open your eyes. What did you think about? Right? So this is the nature of the mind. So you can't tell it, no thoughts, no thoughts, no thoughts. First of all, that itself is a thought. What we do instead is, first of all, we shift from past and future to present. So we at least narrow the focus from not going to be in the past, not going to be in the future, right here, right now. So right here, right now, I'm limited to many fewer things. I'm limited to the sensations of my physical body. I'm limited to my breath. That's all that's right here, right now. Any thought that I have, even if it's only about 2 minutes from now, that's future. I wonder what's for dinner. It's future. The thoughts are always past or future. And so you pull yourself into the present, and it removes the majority of them. There's some other thoughts that are more pervasive types of thoughts. I'm a horrible person. I'm stupid. It's what arises in a lot of people's mind. I'm never gonna, But if we remove the past and the future and we come simply into the present, we're left with very few things for our mind to think about, other than sensations of the body, the breath, and the moment. You may find that the moment you do that, the brain goes into, you're never going to be able to do this. You're not a good meditator. You're not spiritual. Look, see, the brain is still going. You'll never be able to do this. That's normal, don't worry. It happens to everybody. And what you do in that case is, you give the mind one thing to think about. So this takes us back when we were talking about that Ashtanga Yoga, right? You give it one thing. Give it the breath, or give it a mantra. Or if you've got a super active mind, give it two things, it's okay. It's better than, give it the breath and a mantra. You're watching the breath, you're chanting a mantra. Slowly, slowly, what you'll find is the breath seems to stop. The mantra is chanting itself. And you just are. So you begin by bringing the mind into the present. Okay? That removes 99% of the thoughts in your mind. Almost every thought is past or future. Bring it here. And then give it something of the present to focus itself on. And anything else that arises, just think about it like a wispy cloud flowing across a blue sky on a windy day, right? If you were lying on the ground and you were looking up at the sky and a cloud comes, little cloud, well, you've got two options. Option one is you hook the awareness into the cloud and you follow it all the way across the sky like that. Option two is I keep my focus on the sky and the clouds just do this. What most of us do is the first one. We hook into the cloud. That's this sort of thing. You're meditating, and you have a smell of coffee. Somebody in the next room or apartment or building is brewing coffee. Suddenly the mind goes, oh my God, I need a cup of coffee. And then it says, I don't know why I gave up tea and coffee. I made that stupid promise that I was not going to drink tea and coffee again. Oh, I really have to stop doing those things. But you know what? I only did it because my mom forced me to do it. She told me I should. Why is she trying to run my life? For God's sakes, I'm 30 years old or however old you may be. Why doesn't she just stop running my life? I'm not a kid anymore. Now, split second, the whiff of coffee. And here you are having a battle with your mother in your brain. This is what happens to most of us. This is we get hooked into a cloud and we just go with it. Right? And instead of it turning into that, it could have been, oh God, I remember that cappuccino I drank sitting on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. God, those were good days. I should go back to Paris. Anything could happen from the whiff of a smell of coffee. But that's because we hook into the sensation, into the thought. Instead, you stay focused on the blue sky between the clouds. So the smell comes, and you just bring the awareness back to the breath. You notice it. Back to the breath. No drama, no story, no hooking into it. Just, you notice it, back to the breath. Something else will arise, back to the breath. Because the ego will keep trying. The last thing the ego wants is for you to actually become a really good meditator. Because then the ego's grip over you lessens. So the ego's going to keep coming and saying, sure, the coffee pot's off. You might have left it on. You might have left the stove on. This whole place might burn down while you're meditating. It'll do anything. just to get you to stand up and stop meditating. So you just don't fight it, don't yell at it, don't try to push it away. Just keep drawing the awareness lovingly back to the breath. And slowly, slowly you'll find that place of stillness. But not because you've pushed things away, because that just breeds more, but actually because you've drawn all of that power into one thing. And you've become so merged into that everything else dissipates. And then slowly the breath itself stills. And you just are. Okay? Of course. Last, yeah. Can you use the microphone? It'll go into the camera then.
Good evening. How can someone overcome this thought of getting failure in his life?
How can we get rid of fear in our life? So I'll tell you a personal story. When I first came to India, more than 26 years ago now, I was 25. And on the outside, I had everything that looked perfect. You would have said, oh my God, this girl's got everything. Came from all of the privilege and opportunity and so many blessings and so much. Had the best education, had everything. I also had experienced a lot of struggle and challenge and even trauma in my life. And I come here being literally to Parmarth Niketan. I didn't know where I was. There was no Google at that time. But through an experience of grace that I won't go into right now, I found myself here. I found myself sitting in front of the incredible divine being who would become my guru, Pujya Sadhviji. And I asked him about fear. I asked him the same question. And he said to me, you fear because you don't trust. And I then gave him my story. Here's why I don't trust. Here's what's happened to me. And it was a good story. Meaning, I had experienced some really awful things. Things that felt to me very legitimate in terms of why I was afraid, why I didn't trust. How could I trust? These things had happened to me. And I told him, and he looked at me, and he said, are you going to take that to the grave? Now, you have to know Pujya Sadhviji or have been blessed to be in the presence of a real saint to know that this was said with the fullness of compassion. He was not belittling me. He was not undermining my feelings in any way. What he recognized was I was harming myself by continuing to hold on to it. And he wasn't going to be a party of that. He was not going to be an enabler of my own drama. So he says, are you going to take this to the grave? And I was like, God, no, of course not. So he said, so are you going to give it up on your deathbed? Maybe a month before you die? Maybe a week before you die? And I thought, oh my God, is he telling me, am I going to die soon? I mean, I was only 25, but was something going to happen? And I said, no, Swamiji, I'll heal eventually. I'm in process. I'm in therapy. I'm working on it. I mean, there's a system here. And he looked at me with all of the love and all of the compassion and zero of the buy-in to my story. And he said, you are waiting for someone to come in and draw the line for you. He said, you're waiting for someone to come and say, You can be done. He said, no one ever will. It's up to you. You can carry it to your grave. You can let it go on your deathbed, or you can let it go tonight. And I remember I was like, tonight? I mean, I was a psychology PhD student. These things take time. And he said, yeah, we have this beautiful ceremony called the Arti. And he said, I'll tell the boys, they'll give you the lamp, you wave it. And he said, and after the Arti, I want you to go and stand in the waters of Ganga. And I want you to take all of the pain, all of the anger, all of the fear, and I want you to offer it to Ganga. And I spent that afternoon, it's beyond embarrassing in retrospect, but in the interest of total honesty, I will tell you, I spent that afternoon thinking, there's no way this is going to work. This is sweet, this is quaint, but obviously it's not going to work. Thank God I come from an academic background where we understand that rivers don't sweep away people's problems, and that we have processes, and we have therapy, and we have this, and we have that, and we don't have to rely on a river to sweep away our problems. I was 25, and I was afflicted with what a lot of us who are overeducated get afflicted with, which is this very deadly illusion that we actually know something. That somehow having read books and learned facts and gotten A's on exams actually qualifies us to know anything about real life or truth. And I was in the midst of that myth. And so I was full of all of that academic arrogance. And somewhere just before the Arati, kind of late afternoon, early evening, I had a moment that I will always be incredibly grateful for, in which I said, okay, look, I know it's not going to work. There's no way this is going to work. But out of respect for this incredible being who gave me this instruction, at least I have to do it sincerely. It is not respectful for me, even in my own mind, to be sort of poking fun at this instruction, even though it doesn't make any sense to my logical mind. That it was given to me by this being, this enlightened master. At least I need to be respectful of that. And so I took a vow that I would do it sincerely. Again, I was sure it wasn't going to work, but that I would at least be sincere in my efforts out of respect for the greatness of the master who had told me this. And I stood in Ganga, and I held her water in my hands, and I did exactly what he told me. And I prayed and I cried, and I prayed and I cried, and I have no idea how long I stood there. But I gave it to her. And to make a very long story very short, it worked. And 26 years later, I can tell you, it worked. But you have to do it. As Pujya Swamiji said, no one's ever going to come in and say you can be done. The thing that keeps us from trusting is that identification that we carry as the one who was hurt. And what I didn't realize at the time, because he had not explicitly said it, but I realized it only much later, that he was giving an even bigger blessing than letting go of just the pain and anger, was that I had to let go of the identification as the one to whom these things happened. And that came along with it. And when you can let go of that identification, not only does the fear go, not only does the pain go, not only does the trust come, but you literally are reborn in a way. That's the transformation, because your whole way of understanding yourself has changed. Instead of being the one who was abused or betrayed or lied to or cheated or harmed in some way, you no longer get to do that because you've let it go. And so your whole way of understanding yourself now becomes brand new. But you've got to be able to do that, be prepared to do that. And look, grace brought you to Ganga also. So maybe my role here is to simply pass on that beautiful blessing of my Guru. To let it go. To go stand in Ganga and let it go so you can be free. Because that freedom is our birthright. But you can't be free if you don't let go. Wonderful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us online through this gift of technology. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And so much love to you all.